Sean bienvenidos a nuestra segunda conferencia, impartido por una líder que ocupada en generar líderes desde las escuelas. Cómo convertir a niños en estudiantes líderes para el mundo. Cómo preparar a los estudiantes para desafiar los retos y las oportunidades de un mundo en rápida evolución, interconectada a través de una economía global. Cómo ayudarlos a que contribuyan en sus comunidades y en última instancia al mundo en general. En esta conferencia nos daremos cuenta de que es momento de tener una educación que proporcione un medio donde los estudiantes puedan desarrollar habilidades para liderar sus propias vidas, trabajar bien y conducir a otros a alcanzar el éxito. Lynn Fox es nuestra siguiente invitada y la recibimos con cariño en Acapulco en Era Familiar Princess 2017.
Hello! Hola! My name is Lynn Fox. My presentation is coming. I'm really excited that you all chose to be here today, and I hope you are ready. This is who I am. First, I'm a mother of 2 teenage girls. Anyone feel my pain? I hear you. Yeah. Add on that, they're Irish and red hair, which tells me feel more pain. No, I'm kidding. They're amazing, beautiful young ladies. This is exactly what brought me to you today. All of those roles I face in this world as a mom and a sister and a friend and a colleague and a professional educator is what brought me here. Out of a pure mission to make a difference in the world and what's facing us globally, but also for me as a mom and a sister, a wife. That's why I'm here with you, so we can learn and grow together. So how many of you are interested in doing some critical thinking today? You ready to think hard, be a little inspired, and do some learning together? Okay. So I'm going to ignore this. You can't deny that we're really in this age of rapid change. How many of you would agree? So we're in an age of information. This is a recording of internet connections. We're in an age of no borders. This is a picture of Facebook connections. When I say no borders digitally, there's no borders. People can connect from all around the world. We're in an age of rapid change. You all know the bottom picture, and that's not even up to date. I don't have the iWatch on it. The one that amazes me most is this one here up on the top. Have you seen that before? Does anyone know what that is? It's actually a surgeon. Let me show you this. Pretty amazing. It's called the Da Vinci. The doctor, the surgeon, has his face in the computer. The patient lays on the bed, and those robot arms go inside for microscopic surgery. So now imagine, not only does a doctor training, someone who's inspired to be a doctor in the world or a surgeon, they not only have to train for the body and knowledge and all of those pieces, now they've got to be technologically trained and savvy as we move this direction of rapid change. And actually, those work. That is becoming quite popular to help patients. And lastly, collaboration. I happen to be a coffee fan. Luckily, you all are too. I've had my fair share of phenomenal Mexican coffee today. But when I'm in New York City, I come from the northeast of the US, and I walk down the street with my cup of Starbucks, you can see in this one image that for that cup of coffee, the world has contributed economically. Where the coffee beans came from, where the cream came from, where the cup was made, if I put sugar in it, where the sugar came from. So we're in this age of global collaboration. On top of that, we're in this amazing age of big discussions we're in the middle of. from climate change, population and unemployment, human rights, and economic inequality. I think, would you agree that these are top topics in our globe right now, in our country and in our world? And with that, we also have this demand. Business leaders, global business leaders saying, we have a shortage of skills. And these are the skills they're saying they want. And to add to it, let's look back, right? If we're in this age, in the past, can you read that job description from the Ford Motor Company from many years ago? Like, remember the Model T being on the line, the industrial line? What do you notice? The skill level is pretty low, isn't it? It's basically saying to the employees, stand, do your job, and do what I tell you to do. Would that cut it? Right? Look at a job description today from Apple. Take a moment if you can see it and read that job description. So what do you notice the difference? Complete opposite, isn't it? This, really it's a control mentality, right? It's control. This is empower mentality. I need you to take your skills, your passion, your abilities, and I need you to inspire. I need you to collaborate. I need you to innovate. Completely different paradigms from where we were, right? So what does that mean today? It really means that we're in this age of knowledge. We've moved away from the industrial age for the most part. Industry is still there, we know. And we've moved into this age of knowledge and what to do with it. And that impacts us greatly as parents, as business owners, as educators, where are my students that walked in? As students, this impacts you greatly. So the businesses are saying these are the key skills to be really clear right now today. So let's look at today, what businesses are saying they need. Now students, how many of you are high schoolers in this audience? Any high schoolers? Couple? So these are what employers, potential employers are saying they need from you, right? Then we have what parents are telling us. Look at the skills parents are hoping and dreaming for their children. I'm still working on these with my children. They're almost there. One's heading off to university in August. I'll get a few more lessons in before she goes. And then, community leaders. We cannot forget the power of our communities. The power in the business owners, our local politicians, local government, local amazing places like here, where we are today. What they need. And then I say, has anyone asked the students what they need? Have anyone asked? Actually, we usually don't. Otherwise, I'd have the answers here, wouldn't I? We're not asking the kids. We're not asking them what they need, what they want, what they feel is important, while schools have stayed the same. So what all this leads to, all of the discussions, the challenges, the conversations, and the needs of the stakeholders, the people, parents, business, community, and students, all this leads to this gap that's happening globally. And this is a quote out of the Achievement Gap. For students to be ready to face those challenges and fill the gap in the world, we need them to be life ready, right? We need to be life ready. And some of us as adults, me included, I'm still working on being life ready. Because I have a growth mindset and I know I have gaps. Right? So this life readiness, whether you choose college, university, whether you choose a career first or after college, or whether you choose just in general the skills to handle your everyday life, it's tough handling being a parent, a sister, a wife, a daughter, a professional. It's a lot to juggle. And our mission is to help students today meet that need and that gap for a better, effective life. Worthy idea? Is that a good idea for us to consider, isn't it? Because we're really at a crossroads, especially what you see with what's happening in our world. So the answer is leadership. And it depends on how you define leadership, because you have a paradigm of what you mean by leadership, and I have a paradigm. So do me a favor, turn to the person next to you came with, and just share what you believe it means to be a leader. What is leadership? Share that with the person next to you, please. There's no right or wrong answer. It's okay. Just share what your paradigm is. What are you thinking right now? Some of you are not talking. Share your ideas. You've got greatness to share. I see you. You got this. What do you think it means to be a great leader? Okay? So I'm going to show you a video. And in this video, you are going to see examples of leadership that will help shape and bring you closer to the paradigm I live in and the paradigm my amazing colleagues live in with the mission of our work. Okay? So be prepared to watch for what leadership is, and be prepared to then share if you've changed anything in your paradigm. Can someone hit that video, please? Okay. Let's hold it 1 second. See it here. Oh, did you leave? Need more tape. How long have I been? Did that change your idea? Yes, it's all fantastic, inspirational. I have seen that video, I can't even count how many times, and I get the goosebumps on my arm every time, right? Did it change, make you think differently on what you think leadership is? So, the working definition I want you to play with today is this. The great Stephen Covey said two things. One, leadership is a choice, not a position. We need to choose to lead our lives, right? That's a choice every single day when you wake up. Who am I and what do I want to become in this world? The second definition, leadership is communicating someone's worth and potential so clearly they're inspired to see it in themselves. It's that idea of raising up others. The idea that everyone in this room has worth and matter, and it's our job as a leader to raise up others. What do you think? Feel good? Could you live with those two concepts? That idea of personal leadership and the idea of working well with others. Raising up others, whether it's the person next to you, the person in your community, or the person in another country. So if you can hang on to that idea, I left my day job. I had 12-minute drive to work every day. Yesterday it took me a little long to get here, right? I was so fortunate to find the Franklin Covey family. I left my educational role to bring my education expertise to that team, to work with these amazing, amazing people in Mexico on a mission. There's a global movement happening, and people are learning about it every day. And it's educators and business leaders and communities and students who really believe in this definition of leadership as a means to fill that gap I talked about in the beginning. There's a whole group of people. It's happening, and it's called The Leader in Me. And in The Leader in Me, you can see, here's a map of all the schools that are around the globe happening. Happy to say about 1,000 are outside of the United States. This movement started with an educator named Muriel Summers in the United States. She started bringing the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People in her school under the idea of leadership, and turned out to be magical, which led to this movement that's occurring. She had great leadership, didn't she? So you can see in Central America and Mexico, those red dots are dots of schools that are in our process and working with us closely. The blue dots are a special international accreditation. I think actually Central America I think Mexico has the highest number of schools, don't you? Internationally certified around the entire globe. Around the entire globe. Mexico is really leading the way internationally. So, what is this process? What do we mean? Well, it's a process, it's a transformational model going into schools, and it's built on this idea of see, do, get. How many of you were in the last session with Sean? Okay, so some of you were, some of you weren't. So you're following, right? Sean referenced this. The see, do, get is the idea that our paradigms, how we see the world, determine what we do determines what we get. Is anyone in this room an educator, work in the world of education? Couple, okay? So if you know, we in education, and I say we because I'm one of you, right? Educators live down here. We do a lot of stuff. We get results. If we like the results, we keep doing the stuff. If we don't like the results, sometimes we keep doing it anyway because we don't know what else to do. It's true. And then sometimes we change. But we live in this bottom part. And if we want to make real change, that real change happens at the top, the paradigms. Because what we see and what we believe determines everything else. Whether it's as an educator, whether it's as a parent, whether it's as a student. Your beliefs are the strongest component to what happens in your life. So, The Leader in Me process has 5 core paradigms. First one, paradigm of leadership. Pretty easy. It's not that leadership is for a few, it's that everyone can be a leader. So many people, when I say what is leadership, they think of the CEO. They think of an extrovert, someone like me standing on a stage being a leader. But the truth is, if you follow our definition, leading your own life, raising up others, everyone's a leader. Even the quietest little 5-year-old introverted child in school can be a leader by how they're choosing to handle their day or being a role model. So everyone can be a leader. Paradigm of potential, only a few are gifted. No. Often that word gifted means special intellectual power, really smart, IQ testing. We don't agree with that. We believe everyone has genius. Every single person in this room has unique gifts, talents, and strengths that can be used to lead their life and contribute to the world. IQ, giftedness is too limited. It's really about unleashing genius. So in this cartoon, you see all those beautiful animals. I happen to adore animals, so I love them all. But look at what the guy is saying. For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. Is the elephant going to look very smart because he can't pass that test? No. It gets the idea of the challenge in education when you're trying to understand core knowledge, but the test may not be fair or demonstrating. Because everyone has this genius. Now let's talk about the paradigm of change. To improve schools and business leaders that you're in this room, I know who you are. To improve schools, they'll often say the system has to change. That school needs to change. When it's really that we all need to change. Change starts with me. It's not just the educators. It's not just it's all of us collectively changing our paradigm that I have to start changing versus blaming. I can start by how I lead my life and how I choose to help and raise up and support others. We love to point our fingers at schools and say, they're not doing their job. Those kids aren't ready, right? But we don't look at the greater system of all the problems and challenges facing the schools. So if we're going to do this, we need to be in it together. Paradigm of motivation. Love this. This is a big one for us that needs to change, right? Typically in schools, it was the same when I was in school so many years ago and the same now. Teacher as sage on the stage, large and in charge. Controlling the classroom, controlling every movement. We want to flip that notion and empower students to lead their own learning in this information age. They can find, my own daughters, I can ask a question, they can find the answer faster than I could teach it to them. Really. I can ask the hardest question. They can find it on their phone. So why are we standing and imparting knowledge so directly versus coaching? So it's really shifting that educator from sage on the stage to guide on the side, even as a coach in our lifetime, as a parent, right? The role of parent has shifted too, especially with all that information children have access to. We want to unleash their potential by saying to children, let's bring out your strengths, let's use your talents and gifts, let's empower you, let's give you leadership roles. Let's let go, let's release and allow the children to lead. Half the time they can be a better teacher. And lastly, a paradigm of education. One of my favorite parts. That rather than education only, those doors of education is only about the child academically, that the role of education is to raise up the whole child. And actually, I think in Latin America, you do a better job than other parts of the world. I find my experience has been in Latin America, and why I love coming here is because it's so heart-driven. Family is so strong. So I think you do this better than some of us in the other parts of the world where it's so much about here. Just put knowledge in, test the knowledge. We want to develop the whole person in the school in partnership with families and communities and business leaders in mind, body, heart, and spirit. Because the whole person, schools can't just focus on the mind. Because if we don't raise up the rest of the child, it doesn't matter how smart you are if we have poor ethics, morals, and skills. I've seen the smartest people not be able to work with someone else. I've seen the smartest educated people do very unethical behavior and hurt themselves or the world. The whole child matters. So the last part of so what do? Right? We went through our 5 paradigms. Do you like those paradigms? Does it feel like we're on the right track in this movement? Yeah. So now what do? Well, it comes down to some core practices. We look at partnership with families and communities and business leaders to transform schools in 3 areas: leadership, culture, and academics. Leadership, how we're cultivating the social emotional skill set of the students and raising up leaders in the school. Culture, how people are working well together. Who's in charge? Does everyone have a voice? Academics, giving some skills outside of the core curriculum that allow them to achieve. And those fall, the first part, and it's kind of like a twofold. You need 2 pieces to make this work deeply. And this is exactly why I chose to join Franklin Covey. 1, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. How many of you are familiar with it? Not as many. So 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey wrote about 25 years ago. He researched to say, what makes people effective and successful in their life? And he culled it down to 7 habits. Now those 7 habits, when he did it, he was thinking of, well, if the goal of human nature is to move people from dependence, see that line that says dependence, to independence to interdependence. So a lot of times I used to think my job as a mom was to take my child from dependent on me to just independence. I learned quickly, no, they've got to be ready to work with people in the world. That's interdependence for success in life, isn't it? So the 7 habits, which I can't go in deeply right now for you, but the 7 habits, if you pick up the book or you want to take a workshop or take a course, this is taught to corporations around the globe. Around the globe. We now bring it to students, and those students learn the skills that allow them to move up the scale of maturity. In the world of students, the first habits are in the roots. Now remember, I told you leadership is a choice, not a position. So the first 3 habits: I'm in charge, be proactive, think with the end in mind, put first things first. Basically, as a student saying, who am I and what do I want to become? How do I control my behaviors? What's my mission and vision in life? And what will I do to make it happen? That's the whole part of leadership as a choice, right? Then if you look in the tree, the next 3 habits: think win-win. I want to win and I want you to win. It's not a competition. I know that's a hard concept in our world. Seek first to understand, then be understood. The idea of you can't work with someone else if we can't hear them deeply and really understand where they're coming from and empathize. And synergize. Working well together. Using those 3 skills. That's that ability to work well with others. Those are the skills that actually make it happen. In the last part, the top of our tree, no tree can grow without the sun and the rain. Right? Your tree would be dead without the sun and the rain. So the 7th habit, sharpen the saw, is about taking care of mind, body, heart, and spirit. Remember what I said? We've developed the whole person. This habit actually gives those skills. Now, I've been in the world of education a long time. Parents, I know that we've been saying to our kids, be responsible, take initiative. Those are big words, aren't they? The kids don't know how to execute on it. They don't know how to put it into action because we're not giving them the underlying skills. That's what the 7 habits do. All the stuff we want for our children and we want for our community and we want for our businesses, the 7 habits actually give those skill set. I have seen everything from, a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old on a playground. I one time observed, because we want to see what the children do, right? So I have these 2 little ones. And now we're watching the playground and seeing how the kids internalize the habits and use them. And these 2 little ones go and they look like they're about to fight. They're calling each other's names, they're about to go fisticuff, right? And so like good adults, we didn't do anything. We said, wonder how well these habits are working. And suddenly, we saw this other little one, a little boy, standing to the side. I think his name was Matthew. Matthew was watching these 2 kids ready just to duke it out, punch it out. And he goes running over to them. He goes, wait a minute. I think you need a new paradigm. You're not thinking win-win. A 5-year-old stopped 2 other 5-year-olds and helped them redirect their behavior at that little age, changing the paradigm. Then, of course, you've seen how some older kids do it. I have seen high schoolers take this to a whole nother level. High schoolers internalize the habits, and then they're applying it for jobs and universities. They go and they teach other students. High schoolers take it to places I've never seen before. And it's just the beginning. The other, I told you that was one, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The other one is this concept called 4 Disciplines of Execution. It is a goal-setting strategy, which I would love to teach you more another time. It's actually phenomenal. We tell people to set goals all the time. How many of you have been told to set or achieve a goal? Set goals, right? How many of you have told your kids to set a goal? Do you achieve all your goals? No, we fall apart, right? We can write them, we can think about them, but we can't actually get the job done and execute on them. So this book, 4 Disciplines of Execution, teaches the 4 steps on how to achieve a goal. This little mountain shows you that there's 4 steps. We teach the teachers as well as the principals and anyone in the community, we teach children how to use this process to achieve the goals. And really that's how it's applied into academics and any personal growth they want to have in this process. So, what are the results of this movement of leadership? I think the best way for me to show you the results are that, 1, we work with, it impacts parents, staff, students. We start, you see the center, when we work with the world of education, we have to start with the adults. Most people think education, transforming education, is about the kids. It's not at first. The way you start transforming education to solve the greatest problems we have in this world is starting with adults. We have to start with training the adults to change their paradigms and how they work with children. And then we bring that to the students and we bring that to the parents. So we work with the adults in a school or the adult families and allow them to turnkey it over in this process. Because that's where the power is. But what that lends itself to is the most beautiful, beautiful culture in change that I've ever seen. So I'm going to show you Colegio Boston, an amazing school up in the Yucatan Peninsula in Cancun, that I had the absolute honor of doing their international review, meaning their accreditation. They were early adopters. They saw the mission of what needs to happen for their children, and they joined well before we were, they just joined as partners. And in this school, so many amazing things happened between the children, but when we got there, it was really about the adults that made the impact. So I'd like to introduce you to Teresita and Benjamin. Benjamin's the principal. Teresita was a cleaner, the custodian. And when she stood with tears in her eyes and told us the transformation in her life, I had tears in my eyes and said, imagine what's happening for the kids also in the world. So please enjoy meeting Teresita. Aren't they inspiring? That's true. Do you think that's leadership? Amazing. So friends, if you too believe in where we're headed and that leadership is the answer, we invite you to help make change in the world with us. Thank you so much. I hope you stay for the question period.
Tomar un breve descanso de 15 minutos en el cual los invitamos a votar en línea a través de la aplicación para elegir las preguntas más populares que hasta el momento hemos recibido. Estén atentos a la continuación de la conferencia con Lynn Fox. Recibimos con mucho cariño y con un aplauso de regreso al escenario a Lynn Fox.
Guys, we're back. Yay!
Vamos a iniciar con las preguntas que ustedes seleccionaron. Tenemos las 5 más populares en el tablero. Iniciamos con la primera pregunta. ¿Cuál es el riesgo de empoderar jóvenes y que se salgan de control?
This feels like I'm on the stage for The Voice.
Okay.
Did you know that singing competition?
¿Cuál es el riesgo de empoderar jóvenes y que se salgan de control?
So that's a beautiful question. So when we say empowerment for the kids, it's not based on ego, right? It's not to be ego driven. I'm going to give you power to take control. It's really based on the skills with including humility. The ability, if that empowerment is leading their own life and raising up others, then we're teaching them the right paradigm. The wrong paradigm is empowering them so they can be empowered and take control. It's the wrong paradigm. We teach them the leadership paradigm of leading self and raising up others. I've actually never seen a student feel so empowered. Wait, let me take that back. That's a good one part. So in the movement of leadership, kiddos have to practice leadership, right? You can teach them the skills, but they need to practice the skills. And I was just showing them backstage on my Facebook page, in Cambodia, there was a school that's doing this process in Cambodia, and there was pictures of children speaking at events, leading parents, teaching children, like all of these empowered children, speaking, leading, planning, organizing, all the stuff you're seeing adults do here today. So that's what we mean by empowered, because they took the skills they're learning with the 7 Habits of 4 Disciplines, and then we empower them to practice those skills through what we call leadership roles. Like a leadership role of a speaker, a leadership role of a translator. Like even right now, if I was in a school, he would be a student translating for me. It wouldn't be an adult. So when you go into schools that are really doing this right, you don't see adults, you see the kids. But that empowerment doesn't go to their heads. That empowerment allows them to practice the skills in the right paradigm.
Segunda pregunta. ¿Cómo conciliar el liderazgo positivo que nos plantea con la cultura de individualismo que hoy vivimos?
So I have the honor and pleasure to work with different cultures around the world. We're working with leaders in 50 countries. So the beauty of this, like most educational approaches, tell exactly what to do, right? They say, here's a reading program, do exactly what this says and give it. Here's a math program, do exactly what this says and do it. That's a program. That's something you do. We are a process. This leadership movement is a process, meaning there's no one right way. We teach the paradigms and the principles and the skills, and then everyone adapts it to their values and culture the way they want. So if I went to Colegio Boston and saw how they were running the leadership model, and I go to Cambodia and saw how they were running the model, or I go to Europe and saw how they were running the model, it all is honoring the culture that it's in, because there's not one right way. It's a process of becoming. It's a process of allowing these skills to really and pull out. So actually, it enhances your culture. It helps you honor where your roots are, where you come from. It's just such a beautiful thing. While we have the same principles and paradigms and practices, it looks different in every country.
¿Cómo puede una escuela tradicional adaptarse al nuevo paradigma educativo que usted propone?
Okay, so the way we work with all types of schools, every type, private, public, religious, non-religious. So the way the process starts is we usually do an overview explaining something like I did, explaining what our mission is, and schools will do a book study and say, does this match what we want in our world? And then we start by working, and if the school, the teachers in the school say, yeah, we want this, then we start the process by training the adults. So it's kind of like dating before a marriage, right? You need to go on a few dates and then you get married. Maybe more than a few teenagers. And what we do is we do an overview, we do book studies, and we say, are you a match? We don't want to work with schools that say, we don't believe in this, but we're going to do it. We want you to do it because you believe in this mission with us. Okay?
¿Cómo hacer que las personas descubran su verdadero potencial?
So that's a great question, because in the process itself, one, the first step in helping people really see their potential and who they are, we need to send them messages of worth and value. We need to say to people, you matter, just for who you are. We need to break down the walls of judgment. We are built on judgment in this world every single day. I catch myself all the time, judging my children, if they're doing things right or wrong, right? So one, we have to send that message of worth and potential. Two, we put structures in place that allow people to discover who they are. So remember in the Teresita video, she referenced something called a leadership notebook. And in that leadership notebook, that was an educational tool that we use to allow people to discover who they are and what they really want out of life, and then share it with others. That's exactly what happened between Benjamin and Teresita. It was the tool, so the paradigms and the tool that allowed that relationship to open up. So, 2 steps.
Esta es una muy buena pregunta. Lynn, ¿conoces el nuevo modelo educativo en México y qué opinas de él?
Yep. So to be fair, I'd have to look at that one closely to answer it well. Yeah. But in general speaking, many countries are moving to more standards-based collective country standards. And it's basically to get the level of education at the same so that every child has an opportunity to compete. So to be fair, I'd have to look at it more closely to make sure I'm knowing the same one.
¿Qué pasa cuando la violencia rompe la posibilidad de construcción de este o de cualquier otro modelo educativo?
So I adore working in urban environments, meaning cities, right? So I started, when I joined Franklin Covey, I'm working the international side now. I'm a director for international content and delivery and quality. But I started just working as a coach in the US, a coach and consultant. I would just work directly with schools and train them. And in the United States, we have people who live in the rural country, we have people who live in cities, and we have people in the suburbans. Well, I adore working in the cities because that's some of our harder education. That's some of our harder places to work. So to answer this question about violence, that's where I'd like to go. Because I'll give you the example of a school named Charles O. Dewey. It's a middle school in New York City, actually in Brooklyn, of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. A melting pot of cultures from all around the world, literally. Where this neighborhood is, when people come over to our country and move in, they have a tendency to move towards that school. So most of the families don't speak English. A high percentage are impoverished when they first get to the country. In 1% of the children entering the school, 1% can read on their developmental age, like on grade level. So if they're a 12-year-old entering the school, many of them read much below that grade, in English or in Spanish, or in English or in whatever their culture is. So I first joined the school, there were a lot of challenges, gangs, violence, teachers. And I can say this because I'm like family with them and they're amazing educators. These are amazing educators working hard to make a difference. What we found happened, which is so inspiring, was that the kids shifted from more violence and their behaviors changed. I mean, I would walk in the halls and there would be fights and suspensions, kids being slammed against lockers right in front of me. Teachers giving up, completely giving up and just surviving day to day. And when you walk in those halls after we started in partnership together, I had children coming up to me and saying, Mrs. Fox, it's like a window, a door has opened. They're teaching me the skills for life no one's ever taught me. My teachers believe in me. And I watched one boy, his name was Brian. I think he was originally from Colombia. He came in, I knew him as a 6th grader and I knew him as an 8th grader. Okay, now if you know in New York City, children are retained and held back and they have to make it to school. And I watched him as a 6th grader lost, living day to day, just figuring it out. And he'd kind of like down, and by the time he was an 8th grader, he would stand with confidence, shake my hand, and he came up and he goes, you know what? I'm applying to this high school. I'm not sure if I can get in. Would you write me a letter of recommendation, Mrs. Fox? Or what else should I do? He goes, I'm thinking I want to be this when I become an adult. Now you took a child living day to day in a very difficult situation, impoverished, who was saying, I was thinking blinders this day. I'm now thinking where I want to be. So the answer to violence is you start with those who want to learn, and I think you actually change their paradigm, right? Because why are people violent? Think about it. Why are people violent? Why are people lost? They're not feeling valued. They don't have a mission. They don't have a path for where they want to go. They don't have the skills for where they want to go. That's the power of leadership, is putting the power back so they can make a different choice. So to answer bluntly, for me, this is a solution. Is it perfectly easy at first? No. It takes time, it takes a transformation, it takes paradigm changes, but we're seeing amazing results.
¿Qué riesgo corren los niños de las comunidades más pobres del mundo ante una educación que responda a las necesidades del mundo moderno?
So I'm fortunate to see schools and children around the world. And I was really fortunate, so I'm blessed to get to travel. And so I was in Cambodia recently, and between training in Phnom Penh is more of the city, where people have a little more, right? I went up to Angkor Wat, and I was traveling and doing a little touring on my own. I had a day to go see some amazing sights. And when I was there, I saw I saw children who are living in shacks or living on the street with their families. I saw a little girl, as I was touring, need to use the restroom, so she went out to a field that was filled with garbage. And it was normal. To be naked and go to the bathroom. I saw people living day to day, and I stood in the market, true story, and a beautiful girl who had to be about 14 came up to me and pulled my sleeve, and she smiled, and she had black holes in her teeth from malnutrition. She had a baby on one hip and another baby here, and she said, please, I need your help. And I said, And I stopped. I said, how are you? Who are you? And she explained that this was her siblings. This is her siblings. And that she needed milk for the baby, but she needed special milk. She needed Pediasure because the baby had bites from where they live. And they needed good milk. But she can't afford it. Would I buy them Pediasure? She said, well, tell me more about yourself as we're walking to the 7-Eleven. I said, what do you do? She goes, well, I go to school. I said, you don't have any shoes on. She goes, no, because I only can afford one pair of shoes. One pair of shoes to wear to school. I can't lose them. And so she's barefoot. And of course, I talked to her and went to buy the milk for her. And that's not, what would you do, right? Any of you in this room would do this. Every single one of us would go buy the milk for this child. And I talked with her a while, and I said, how long will this last you? She said 2 weeks. And she was so grateful, right? And I said to her, do you take school seriously? Yeah, I do. Stay in school. This is your job. How you pay me back, stay in school. Do whatever it takes. Now, I thought of her, and I think of her every day, because I thought, gosh, even though if people are poor, that doesn't mean they're having a bad life, right? You can do a lot with little. But she really had a hard stake. And here's what else I learned in Cambodia. Teachers, the government doesn't, as I understand, this is my experience, so remember, if you find other data, this is my experience. The teachers don't get paid enough, so they'll find other ways to make money. So they will tell kids they can't come and then have to tell them they'll tutor them on the side and the parents have to pay. They're also not allowed to go to school unless they have a uniform. So what happens if you can't afford a uniform? What happens if you can't afford shoes? You're not allowed in the school door. And then if you give the uniform, parents will sell it. Because the poverty, right? They'll sell it. They're doing what they have to do. So I was looking at those experiences. One, the little child who's very obviously vulnerable, moving out into a field to go to the bathroom. Who knows who's around? To the child who's just saying, I'm trying to go to school, I gotta find milk for my baby sister, right? And I thought, we can't fix the world. I can't make their life better unless I scooped them up and took them home with me. But that's not going to change anything. But what can we give them are the tools to envision the life they want. So the difference that I think what we're up against in the world of education is like, there's politics, there's funding, there's all these challenges, because when I talked to educators there and said, why don't you just have uniforms at school, let the children change into the uniform, and then keep the uniform there. That way the kids can always get in school, and the parents won't sell the uniform. Or better yet, get rid of uniforms. Why do you worry if they look isn't the job to be done education? We got to get out of our heads and change our paradigm, right? Because the paradigm in that educational system is, you must wear a uniform, you must have shoes, you must do it this way, you can't have a cold, can't, don't, do, you, do, barrier, 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 to the child being educated, right? All of those are barriers. So the vulnerability in cultures is, one, as adults, we owe it to get out of the way, change the systems. What's the barrier? How do we get around it? Change our paradigm. To say, what's the end in mind? Is the end in mind? We can't change abject poverty. We can't change all these places in the world. We can't change some people, but we can empower. All I want to do now is go back and teach her the 7 habits. I want to find that girl, because the fact that she's a leader for her family, she's already demonstrating amazing leadership. And she was really smart because she picked me. Because she knew, she must know how to eye people up, right? She must know who has a heart on their sleeve. So she's got skills. She's already a leader. This child's a leader. Now imagine if we give her the skills and the knowledge and how to move to the next level. We don't have to fix everything, but we can empower. And that will get us past. And that is the equalizer in this economic disparity we have The equalizer between the very poor and the very rich is the vision and mission inside us. If I can give a child vision and mission for their life, motivation, and then the social emotional skills, you'd be amazed at what they can overcome. I've overcome a lot in my life, which I don't need to share that story, but I've also been blessed to also have people in my life who've made a difference. So friends in this room, if we can make the difference and empower, it'll be amazing to see where it can go.
Si alguien desea más información, obtener más conocimientos de esta conferencia, lo pueden hacer en el lobby de este edificio. Bueno, pues damos terminada la segunda conferencia del día y despedimos con un gran aplauso a nuestra invitada Lynn Fox.
Yeah. I thank you all. Thank you so much. I take a piece of you all with me. You are truly inspiring. And I really hope I get to meet you again. Thank you.
Thank you.